All right, here we go. In this video, what I'm going to do is take you through a back test of a puts only, what's sometimes referred to as a condor, basically buying and selling puts on the bottom side of what would normally be an iron condor strategy. I've just called it puts condor because it's not technically like a bear call spread or bear put spread. And then it's also going to have an insurance contract that is rolled every 3 to 6 months underneath. And I'm going to test out bringing the delta of my puts up closer to the money and relying on that insurance to offset losses so that I can go harder and accrue more premium. And if there is a movement against me, rely on that insurance contract to basically give it an uplift rather than just being a hedge. So we'll see how this goes. What I'll do is I'll show you the setup. I'll pause the video. I'll run through the whole thing and then I'll talk through the results. I'm going to do it over a year. So a back test over the last 13 months. So starting now a month out from expiry. First thing I'll show you is sort of the setup. So if we go through these very quickly, this is how it's going to work in terms of timing. I'm going to set my puts 7 to 5 weeks away from expiry with the goal of running all the way to expiry. There are some tactics, and what I might do next is run this with me entering and exiting the trade within and never running to expiry, always exiting the trade when I've made like a chunk of the premium back and incurring the costs. That'll be a worthwhile exercise and I'll post that up next. In this example, say for example I set my puts on December the 15th. Expiry for those puts would be for Feb, like the February expiry date of a monthly. And that's when I would collect all of the premium. In here there will be a crossover period where I'm running 2 at once, and I just want to test out what the impact that will have, particularly if the market moves against me. How much is a good amount of insurance to purchase so that I can either offset and not have too much of a loss, or have a gain, and then figure out whether I should up the insurance contracts in order to make a bit of money, and what the window of time is, so how far out that insurance contract should be. My estimate is it's probably going to be always maintaining 3 months on your insurance contract between the last expiry period and the point at which your insurance contracts expire. For example, if I'd already written this in January and my these were expiring in March, then the earliest I would be allowed to hold insurance for would be June. But I should be rolling it further out. So maybe June to September would be acceptable expirations for my insurance contracts. In terms of some trade rules, this is what I'm working towards. So the puts aim to have 25 to 50 point spread between the puts. This is trading over the ASX 200 index, which the smallest distribution you can have is 25 points. I know the S&P is 5 points. So this is just Australia. I want to set the puts with a delta of 0.2 to 0.15 for the bought puts, and then the sold puts will have slightly lower delta. As I said, 5 to 7 weeks to expiration. And my insurance legs, I'm going to aim to have a 0.3 delta at the point when I set them, potentially 6 months out from expiry or more, but 6 months is generally when you can get the depth in the contracts to purchase them. All right, zoom in a bit. So I'm using impliedvolatility.com.au. It's my trading platform, and this is their back testing tool. So I'm doing it over the XJO, and the initial balance start with 50,000. I'm going to start it on the 31st of December 2020. So about 13 months ago. So let's create that. I'll just zoom out a bit so you can see the chart. First up, I'll buy my insurance. I'll just start with 2. Actually, maybe 3. And I might have to up that as we go. So I'll buy 3 puts. And I'll set that out in June, 168 days. The delta for that is at 0.56, so I need that to be down around the 0.3 mark, which seems to be quite a long way down. Yeah. Let's go further. About there. Cool. So that's the insurance, and then I'll show you what it's like putting the puts in. Might actually be easier to put these in manually. So if I go into this is the options chain. It's December, so I'm setting these for, I'll set these for Feb, 5 to 6 weeks. And I go into the put side, and look for the delta. Now I said the delta would be around 0.2 to 0.15. So anywhere from 6275 down to 6175. So I'll go at the top end, 63. I'll load those in, and that's bought. I need them to be sold. And then I need my protection contracts underneath that, which will be 25 to 50 points lower than this. So 6,250 for the same expiry. Looks like the delta of that's a bit high, so I might move that down. That's better. 6,250. So I'll go 6,200. Oops. Go into the options chain. Make sure you select the right expiry. So Feb. Here, 6,200. Cool. So that's now balanced. And then I'll start. Let's move that down so you can see it. Working my way through the days. So that's 3 days. I'll just zoom out a bit. I've just fast forwarded 3 days through the historical data. 3 days and it's now in a profit. Back to break even really. I'm now at the 11th of Jan, and I'll be looking at this point to set my next puts. 5 to 7 weeks out. Looking for March. So maybe on the 20th of Jan. That'll be 2 months. 25th. So I'll set it here. Minus 50. March. With the delta of 20. 6,350. And then I need my bought protection just underneath that, March. So that was 350. 50 contract, 50 points beneath, so 6,300. Cool. And then I keep moving. Volatility must have spiked. I'll keep going. Keep moving it along. All right. I'll play this out. I'll do it for a year, and then I'll come back and I'll explain what happened and give you the total return for the year on the capital risked and call out anything that you need to know about. All right, I've just run through a 12-month period on backtesting. A couple of things to call out. Backtesting doesn't include margin requirements, so it's basically like just a starting point. If you want to backtest, it's not real life. It also just assumes that you get filled at exact prices that are represented, which is not the case in real life. So like that's another thing to consider. This, if we played out the whole year with the insurance, this strategy returned on a starting point of 50,000 up until now, 21st of Feb today when I'm recording this. It would have returned a $27,000 profit on top of that. So, you know, over that, what's that? Over 50% return. But there's a big caveat on that because of what happened with this correction. You can see the effect of having like a protection or an insurance component, and that occurred here. You can see if we had to pull the ejector seat at that point here, the total profit on all of it would have been $14,252, which is still not too bad, but it's definitely not where you want to be. So let's look at a 27,000. 358. Yeah, so 54% return if you could ride out through that period, but that was basically like the market rebounded, but it may not have done that. If I was trading this for real, I'll show you what I would have done in a second, and I probably would have cut my losses because you don't know what's going to happen. If it was 14, so pulled out here, 14,252 divided by, so it's a 28% return over the year, which is still not too bad. If I wind back the clock, I'll show you what actually happens. So at this point here is probably where I would have cut it. I had insurance, I'd upped the insurance amount, 6 contracts from 3, and pushed it out further. If I had have kept it closer, who knows what would have happened. It also depends on when it was set. So at that point, my insurance contracts for June were worth more than I had paid for them. And my February puts were just in the money. So losing money. And you can see the amount there, and volatility was pretty high at that point. The day before, 175, yeah. The delta of 0.57, you know, trading rules is usually if it gets over 35%, so 0.35, you probably want to close it out, assuming you can make enough back on this insurance contract. If I did that at that point, it would have been a $19,000 return. So I could have closed it there and then rewritten more puts at higher volatility. Probably would be better. I could play that out in another video and see what happens. If I had to just let it ride, it would then spike back up, but I could have been locking in, I would have been locking in some pretty significant losses there. So I doubt I would have let it do that. I probably would have tried to trade out of it at about here, rewrite more puts and keep going. But yeah, so that's the result. Not too bad. If you get a few of these in a year, you really have to consider how much insurance versus where the puts are being set, or the distance, which is things that I'll be experimenting with in further videos. But overall, not too bad in terms of a return, even trading through some pretty hairy times like here and here.